Good afternoon. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks Show. We are coming to you live from Barbados, beautiful sunny Barbados, and this is our special lunchtime edition. We're normally on every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock in the evening. In fact, we have a show at 7 o'clock this evening, but we are on because we have something special that we have to do today. And those of you who are watching, you know that in Barbados we are dealing with the cybercrime bill, which is just in a matter of days. In a matter of days. The prime minister, the government is saying that they are planning to pass this bill in Barbados, which for many Barbadians, we're very, very worried because for us, we believe that it infringes on our constitutional rights and our human rights. And we're going to discuss that a bit more today. But more importantly, we're going to take a look at what's happening in Guyana. And we're going to get an update and basically put that whole scenario in context. So I want to welcome those of you who have logged on. And like I always say, I'm going to ask you kindly to like and to share so that people can find us. I know we're not normally on at this hour of the day, but it is too important. It's very, very important that we are on. Good day. I'm seeing Smiling Butterfly is saying greetings. The Marcia Weeks family. So greet Smiling Butterfly. We're going to ask you to share and let people know that we're on. It is very, very important that we do this. The 14th of June, it's just around the corner. And so we have to be very, very vigilant as to what is happening in Barbados. This Saturday, which is tomorrow, the 10 o'clock tomorrow, we are going to be at Redmond's Drive, right there on Fontebelle. Fontebelle, you will see it's a crossroads right there where there is the lights, where you have the lights. That's where we're going to meet. And then we're going to march from there to Independence Square. Why are we doing that? We like the hot sun? No. But we're standing up for freedom of expression, freedom of speech in Barbados, which, based on this cybercrime bill, will be non-existent. Based on this cybercrime bill, what has happened in Guyana with this man, Kidackie Amsterdam, could happen right here in Barbados. And today we have Rickford, Burke, who is going to come on the show, and he is going to be telling us a bit about what's happening in Guyana with this young man, Kidackie Amsterdam, and just look at the possible implications to us in the Caribbean. We all know what has happened with Chris Muslist in Trinidad, where a YouTuber again was arrested and has a charge against him right there in Trinidad. And so, of course, us in Barbados are wondering what's happening in the region. What are we afraid of? Why isn't we don't do we have a problem with people expressing their thoughts, their opinions, etc.? And so we want to take a look at that, and we are just waiting for our guest to join. But while our guest joins, as he's coming into the studio, again, I'm going to ask you to share. And I wanted to just take a look at this particular little blurb that is going out here. And this is based on Section 20 of the Cybercrime Bill. Our government is saying that if your post has caused annoyance, inconvenience, annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, embarrassment, insult, injury, humiliation, intimidation, hatred, anxiety, or substantial emotional distress, you are fined 70,000 and 7 years in prison. So if your post has caused anyone in Barbados, including our political officials, any emotional distress, any kind of anxiety, any kind of insult, any kind of humiliation, any kind of embarrassment, any annoyance. You're annoying me. Every time you come on and you talk about the cybercrime bill, Mrs. Weeks, it's an annoyance to me. It's an inconvenience. You could be fined $70,000 or 7 years in prison. And that's what we are talking about. That's what the protest tomorrow is about. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. right there, Redmond's Drive in Barbados. We're going to be there, and we congregate there and go right to Independence Square. And it is all of these things that we are concerned about, and especially when we see some of these things happening right across our other countries in Guyana. Now, what does the Barbados Bar Association have to say about about the cybercrime bill? They have a lot to say, right? And the Barbados Bar Association says this is the Law Reform and Legislation Committee, says the committee concludes that the level of debate and interrogation of this bill to date has been inadequate, given the very serious power which is being vested in the state and in private individuals in matters protected by the Constitution. That is to say, the rights of privacy and expression. Unless amended, the bill will face challenge in the court. The Barbados Bar Association, not Marcia Weeks, not the Marcia Weeks show. This is the Barbados Bar Association. And so this is exactly why we are marching on Saturday, tomorrow, 10 o'clock. And we have our roadside parliament, which is going to be on Sunday evening at 5:30 p.m. Now, we have with us an esteemed guest this evening, one of those who, I tell you, whenever we talk of this bill, the person that comes to mind is Mr. Rickford Burke. And, I know that a lot of Bajans is saying to me, contact Rickford. And this was even before what happened to Kidackie Amsterdam, which I'm going to let Mr. Burke come in and give us the overview of what and the background of what has happened to Mr. Kidackie Amsterdam, a Guyanese in Guyana. But Rickford Burke is the president of the Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy, CGID. He's also an international law consultant, a Guyanese American community leader in the US, and a human rights activist who's been targeted by the Guyana government for its powerful advocacy against the government's alleged corruption and racism in Guyana. That's Mr. Rickford Burke, and we are so happy to have him on this afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Burke.
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your listeners. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so listen. There's no one else really I could interview about this kind of topic other than Rickford Burke. You have seen it all. You have experienced it all. Welcome again, sir. And can you give us a background of those viewers who are watching and hearing about Kidackie Amsterdam? Can you give us a background on what has happened to Kidackie Amsterdam?
Well, again, thank you for having me, and thanks for your kind words of introduction. So Kidackie Amsterdam is a talk show host like you. Kidackie hosts a morning show called Buxtonian Morning. To give you a history, Buxton is one of the villages bought by slaves. It's probably the most activist Black village in Guyana, or one of the most. During the colonial era, the people from the village of Buxton on the east coast of Demerara, which is, I would say, about maybe 20 miles from Georgetown or less. They wanted to speak to the Governor General about the concerns of the village. And so the Governor General was passing along with a train.
Yes.
And this is a true story. And he had no intentions of stopping in Buxton. And the people on Buxton went on the line and stopped the train. So the history of Buxton is that Buxton people stop train. So if you understand, that kind of language, is a very activist village. And so Kidackie has a hard-hitting morning show.
Yes.
And 2 weeks ago, Congressman Jonathan Jackson visited Guyana at the invitation of the president.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to put everything into context.
Yes.
So Jonathan Jackson's father is Jesse Jackson, a renowned American civil rights leader who was actually with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he was shot and killed by white racists. And the government of Guyana, because of our advocacy here, has been targeting Black leaders of consequence in America to ingratiate themselves with, because we've had some significant leaders in this country criticize the government of Guyana.
Yeah.
And so as a counter to that, they're seeking out the Jesse Jacksons and the Benjamin Crump. And, you know, Benjamin Crump is the leading Black civil rights attorney in America, or at least one of. And so we had a Washington conference last year, as you probably remember.
Yes, I remember.
The government was spooked by the conference, and they decided to hire a lobbying firm and spend $61 million attacking me and the Washington conference. And their lobbying firm arranged for them to come to rebut the conference because the government was demanding to be participants of the conference.
Yes.
And as part of their rebuttal, their lobbyists arranged for them to meet with Congressman Jackson and some other Black members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And apparently, when he met with Jackson, he invited Jonathan Jackson to Guyana. So during the time when Jonathan Jackson was in Guyana, to me, they wanted Kidackie Amsterdam'S program because it's a Black Power awareness program. They wanted Kidackie Amsterdam off the air. So since back in February or March, I think, a caller on his program had advocated or made comments to the effect that they should cut off the heads of the 3 leading people in the PPP. And Kidackie Amsterdam, immediately after that call ended, issued a disclaimer saying that he did not subscribe to violence, but he did say that some people in the country might want to see the backs of those politicians. And you know what that means, meaning that people want to see them voted out. But they waited until Jonathan Jackson was in Guyana, and they arrested Kidackie Amsterdam for cybercrime, for inciting violence against the president and members of the cabinet. And they're citing a portion of the unconstitutional cybercrime law callously passed by the last administration, much to our objection. And that law says that any person, whether inside or outside of Guyana, who incites or encourages any acts of violence against a public official or does anything to embarrass and denigrate any public official commits a crime. And so that's what they charged Kidackie Amsterdam with. But they don't have a leg to stand on because Kidackie Amsterdam did not repeat those words. Secondly, it was a call from the internet. I'm not sure how the government of Guyana intends to invoke jurisdiction on the internet. And third, Kidackie Amsterdam is a journalist and engages in free expression. So I don't know that somebody who makes such a statement on the internet, and particularly possibly the call originated from overseas, how the Guyana police force or the government can think they have jurisdiction over that call. But those last 3 are matters for the court to decide. But
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally, you cannot charge somebody for something they did not say. We all know
Right.
that in the law, you have to, if you want to apply the law, you have to look at the literal words, right,
Ah.
of the legislation. And the law says if someone encourages, albeit the law is unlawful, and I'm pretty sure during this period, his attorneys will challenge the law,
Mm-hmm.
but um, he did not encourage. As a matter of fact, he discouraged it. He said that he did not subscribe to the promotion of violence, but they charge him. And we believe that they charged him because they did not want Jonathan Jackson to listen to a call-in program where members of the Black population are complaining about the government. Now, let me say one last thing about that visit. The visit backfired because we demanded that the congressman meet with the opposition, and he did. When he met with the opposition and he heard all of the complaints, he decided to go to the village of Mocha. And Mocha is a black village, just like Victoria, historic black village, bought by slaves. And when he went there, people were able to tell him about the government coming there and breaking down the homes of black people and
Oh,
removing
wow.
them allegedly for because they claimed that their homes would be in the path of the road. The homes were not in the path of the road. What they wanted to do is clear that land because when they constructed a new highway, that will become prime land, and they wanted those black people off of that land. Now I understand their East Indian support. They're giving out those lands to East Indian businessmen. So they were able to talk directly to Congressman Jackson about the racism that they experienced, the brutality, where the government sending people there and bulldoze their homes and kill their cattle and bury it and drag the people who didn't want to leave their homes, black women and children, through the mud. The police officers did that. So the people were able to talk to Jesse Jackson's son about
Mm-hmm.
that experience. And while they were talking, a woman said it was racism. And Kwame McCoy, who is a black young man in the government who does their bidding, attempted to stand up to abuse other people. And the congressman stopped him and said, no, I didn't come here for this. I want to hear only from the residents. I want to
Yeah.
hear from the residents so I could go back and report to the American government what I experienced here. And so he shut him down. But coming back to
Mm.
Kidackie Amsterdam, I am hard pressed to see how the government is going to prove that Kidackie Amsterdam committed a crime. But most important, they are not looking to win cases in court. Not since the government came to power, they didn't win not one criminal case. And
Mm-hmm.
they've charged all the black activists. Every single black talk show host in Guyana has been arrested under the cybercrime law.
You serious?
Conversely, any black person, every black person who has made a report under the cybercrime law, the matter has not been investigated, including members of parliament.
Hold
And
a minute. So you're going a mile a minute there, and so you're saying to me, and this is why I wanted to talk to you. My viewer said, get Rickford Burke to understand the context. So you're saying that since the cybercrime bill has come into effect, that a
yes,
lot of black talk show hosts have been arrested in Guyana.
all, all,
All.
not a lot, all, including members of parliament, all.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they're not only targeting the black talk show hosts in Guyana, they're targeting black talk show hosts outside of Guyana. The
Mm-hmm.
vice president, the attorney general, and the police commissioner warned that any Guyanese, any part of the world, criticize the government or says any comment that they deem unfavorable that can fall under the Cybercrime Act, they will charge them in any part of the world. And they have a right to send a police officer or an agent from Guyana to any Guyanese home across the world.
Mm, wow, my God. Now, yeah,
Now, we have a law here called Stand Your Ground where you can shoot somebody to kill them if they come into your space and threaten your privacy. So I wish them good luck with that.
but let me just you said something there that is very interesting. The context under which they arrested Kidackie. And so you're saying that this happened during the visit of the son of Jesse Jackson?
Yes,
Mm.
it happened. Um, It happened when the congressman was visiting the country. And
Yeah.
then, but that's not only it, Marcia. What was most disturbing for us is they shackled him, right? And then the police issued a statement referring to him as a Negro. So conjure up in your mind a black man being arrested for something that he did not do. He is shackled and listed as a Negro. That sounds like lynching to me. And that sounds like the Guyana government, the PPP government, is engaging in cattle slavery.
Wow. And it, oh my Lord, this is, you know what? I saw some, I have some footage that I want to play
Sure.
for, and I must say that I did not get a chance to take out some of the language out of this one, but you know, I don't believe in expletives and so on. I want to warn my my viewers, but I thought, Rickford, this was too important not to show it. I saw this footage a while back online, and I want to play it and then ask Mr. Burke if this person has been arrested under the cybercrime bill. But let's just play. Let me find it and play it. In the meantime, guys, I want us to share, and this is the news behind the news. You see, this is what happens when we go and we get that news behind the news, because it's important, Barbadians, those from Trinidad who are watching, that we understand the news behind the news. So now that we understand the context, right, in which this this gentleman, Mr. Kidackie Amsterdam, was arrested, you see the bigger picture of what is happening. Let's listen to this East Indian young man, and pardon the some of the expletives, okay? Please, it's 1:10, but we've got to listen to it. Please endure it with me. Thank you.
And the fucking next thing is, police now against fucking police. Here's the next thing. The fucking police, them all look like a fucking thief. Yeah, black man that's like fucking jump houses. Yeah, fucking Matty black man, shoot you like a Matty black man. Your mother's gonna get fucking sense, eh? The fucking man down there in Ghana. Oh, mother's gonna is the policeman. Yeah, gotta look for. Kill the police out. No fucking cool the people do ya not. Is your old Matty black man shoot a Matty black man. And your mother's gonna get from fucking racist now, eh? And your mother's gonna dotage bad black man. And your mother's gonna get sense. Like I can never fucking go to school. I need to go fucking school. And your mother's gonna dotage bad. I never see fucking black man so yet. Eh, burning fucking road, burning up fucking people vehicle. But hey, black people and pies and your mother's gonna out keep a party. And fucking make sure invite all of your mother's gonna, all the black man in this country. Cook and get your mother's gonna fit and show pies in your fucking food and get you dead out of your mother's gonna. After that kind of get no fucking sense, black man. Me said I am known as fucking Gaza on TikTok. I kill all your mother's cunt out if I get the fucking chance to kill black man. I shoot.
Now, listen, guys, I told you and I warned you. And for those of you who are going to write me, you know I don't normally put this kind of thing on, but I only got it today, and I had to put it on because I thought, Mr. Burke, I thought watching this, I mean, I'm hearing the Guyanese accent is thick, which I love it, but it's talking about poisoning black people. He threatens to hold a party and poison black people. He's threatened to kill the black policemen in Guyana. And my question to you as a Guyanese and as someone in law, do you know if this young man was charged with the cybercrime bill?
He was not, and he actually lives in Guyana.
So he was never charged.
He was not, because he's East Indian. Let's face the fact. He's East Indian and his family supports the government. Now, let me put this in context. When he made that statement, there was outrage throughout the society. The police didn't even pay him a visit. I understand that the Ethnic Relations Commission issued a statement and he apologized. But apologizing is not atonement for a crime, a significant crime like that. He said, kill all the black police officers, and he said, kill all the black people in the country, right? So East Indians are allowed to do that because they're above the law, especially, sorry, not only especially, East Indians that support the government. Because the East Indians that don't support the government, they treat them the same as they treat black people because they're upset with them for associating with black people in the first place. Now, he said that, nothing happened. There is no East Indian, sorry, there's one East Indian that I know of, and he's from the opposition, that was charged under the Cybercrime Act, right? And that's a man by the name of Mr. Malcolm Harry Paul. And they're treating him just as badly as they treat black people. It's because he's associated with black. Outside of that, no East Indian who have said anything about killing black people, about poisoning black people, any sort of thing, cut off our heads, none of them has been charged. Several members of parliament are targeted by PPP supporters. One particular person by the name of Critic. I noticed that former Minister Sabona Bruns sued him for about $500 million, and he apologized in court yesterday.
Yeah.
But he attacks all of us. He's associated with Bar Jagdeo, and he does all of Bar Jagdeo's dirty work. Never been charged. As a matter of fact, why charge him? He just got $1 billion in government contracts. He's never been a contractor. So that's his reward for attacking black people. Also, Amanza Walton Desir, the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, has filed cybercrime complaints. The Member of Parliament for Mucka, the East Bank Demerara, where that has been the leader in the advocacy against the brutality against the people of Mucka, she has filed cybercrime complaints. No police investigation. The cybercrime bill under this government is only for black people in Guyana. And I want to say this. The government has been attacking us when we speak out about the rights of black people and against abuse of black people.
Yeah.
And I know that some of the trolls might come on your show and write, but let me say this. I am unapologetically black, Afro-Guyanese. I advocate for the rights of all people. But I advocate specifically for the rights and civil liberties of black people, people of African descent, because all over the world, we are under attack. All over the world, racism is resurging. All over the world, we have people not taking enough steps to ensure that we bury tendencies of apartheid and slavery. And it's resurging in Guyana in the manifestation of the atrocities committed by the PP government. And I'm alarmed by the silence of CARICOM heads. CARICOM is headquartered in Guyana. I've always said that. And the abuse of black people in Guyana, to me, is celebrated by CARICOM heads around the Caribbean because they ignore it. Also, the people of Barbados and others listening might find appalling the fact that when Nigel Hughes, the attorney for Kidackie Amsterdam, objected to him being described as a Negro, the Attorney General of Guyana, Anil Nandlal, defended it. He said it's a term that has been used since 1809, which is not true. But even if it was, you will defend it? And then he said the objection to the use of the word Negro was opportunistic and raised only because Congressman Jonathan Jackson was in Guyana. So that's what they think they now can tell black people when to raise objections to being inhumanely treated. And I am shocked that people around the Caribbean have not spoken out about the government of Guyana defending the use of an N-word to describe a black man that they shackled, to depict him as a slave under subjugation of PPP East Indians.
That's just appalling, especially when you think of the context and what's happening in Guyana at this time. For them to label him as that, it should just be a Guyanese, instead of calling, putting that label on him.
Well, apparently when they arrest you, they have to state your name, your age, your race, or whatever it is. So in this country, they put African American or black. Some people don't like the word black either. But in Guyana, and I'm not aware that I saw the former assistant police commissioner disputing whether that term has been used a long while. whether it's been used by this government or the past government, it is wrong. And we as Black people are saying that we object to it. And then you have an East Indian man saying, no, 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 you can't object to that because we think it's a right label and it's an opportunistic objection and it has been used all along. You never objected to it. So you imagine the slave master, a slave catcher, back in the days of cattle slavery, telling a slave who is objecting to you calling him the N-word, hey man, a white man, hey, you can't object to that. It's been used since my grandfather days.
Right, exactly.
He's not saying, well, we must respect our African Guyanese brothers and sisters. Let us desist from using words that are insulting to their race. Now, you think if I or somebody in the Guyana police force use the C word or any other word to describe an East Indian, the country will break up, right? They will object straight to the United Nations. If we use a derogatory term, a racist term to describe our Amerindian or indigenous brothers and sisters, the world will come to an end.
Yeah.
But they are so contemptuous of Black people that he has had to assume the role of a bloody slave catcher to tell Nigel Hughes, another Black man, why are you objecting to the word use of the N-word to describe this shackled African Guyanese? It has been used for 100 years before, and you're raising it now is a little suspicious because you have a Black congressman in the country.
Oh wow! Listen, I'm listening to you, and as I said, those of you who are watching, you've just joined us. This is Rickford Burke. He's Guyanese, and he's in charge of CGID in New York. And he's a human rights activist, and who, as you say, you hear, is a proud Black man who advocates on behalf of the Black people, Black Guyanese, which we've been broadcasting for, this is about 3 years, about the plight of Black Guyanese. We're probably the only podcast, outside of Guyana, that talks about this kinds of things consistently. And I've been, listen, they have used the Facebook to try to, call me all kinds of names. The Indo-Guyanese have called me, monkey, and they call me all kinds of names because I've been broadcasting about what is happening to Indo-Guyanese. And we're so happy that you have come and given us the context. And we are seeing and hearing about the number of Black talk show hosts that have been targeted by the cybercrime bill in Guyana. And I think that this is important for us in the Caribbean to understand what is happening in Guyana and how it relates to us, especially us here in Barbados, where they're planning to pass the cybercrime bill in a couple of days. But let's hear from, there's another video that I came into contact with this today. And this is of your vice president. Your vice president. And I really want to ask you again, if I'm going to play the video and ask you what has happened to this vice president. Has any charges been brought to him as it relates to the cybercrime bill in Trinidad? Just listen. I want our viewers to listen.
In Guyana, not Trinidad, Guyana.
In Guyana, sorry. And listen to this carefully.
And there will be consequences. If they think that they can rig the elections and have the kind of peace that we have now, they're wrong. Very, very wrong. I hope they're not thinking that in their calculation. I'm making it clear about that. And it's not coded language. It means, I said it, the nature of the struggle changes. So you look at how people, when you have a legitimate government, a government that you accept as legal, there are acceptable forms of struggle. You can protest peacefully, you can go to the parliament, you use the rules. But if they don't live by the rules, they come to power without observing the rules, then the other side should not be bound by any rules too, because it's a a freedom struggle. It changes from a struggle within a democracy, an established democracy, to one of freedom, fighting for freedom. And that's different.
Which entails what?
Well, I don't want to define all of that. You let Harman guess what that means. Let Harman guess what that.
Wow, that is serious, and people need to understand. Can you put that in a context for us? Because he is now the vice president, and this was said when he was in the opposition.
Right.
And he's basically, to me, it seems like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's basically letting the dogs out, really, and saying, go ahead. I'm speaking metaphorically. He's saying, go ahead and attack them because it's an illegitimate government that is set up. Can you, am I right in my understanding?
But he declared war on the government. I mean, you're trying to put it nicely. He said there should be no rules, there should be no law, they should obey. They can just do what they want. His party is going to do whatever they want. And his party has a history of doing exactly that. In the 1960s, before I was born, they declared war on the government. At the time, the Forbes-Burnham government, and because they lost election, and they killed Black people and burned their villages down, burned Black people alive. If they suspected you of giving information to the opposition, like for instance, Mr. Abrams, everybody knows of Mr. Abrams, the incident of Mr. Abrams. He was the permanent secretary, I think, in one of the ministries, and they said that he leaked information to the opposition, and they went into his home and killed him and his entire family, lined them up against the wall and slaughtered them. They bombed a ferry that was plying the Georgetown, Demerara, the two main towns, route through the Essequibo River, and they bombed that boat, killing 40-something people, including the mother of a friend of mine. So that's their history as a violent party. And so he declared war on the government. He also called on his supporters to attack President Granger at the time when he was opposition leader, and President Granger was the president. He was never charged. I don't know why. I have serious problems with the Granger administration and their enforcement of the law against outlaws like Bar Jagdeo. Let me say this. Bar Jagdeo should be in jail. I've called for an investigation. When he was president of Guyana, you know, he did a Putin. You can only serve 2 terms in Guyana. He was the president. He served more than 2 terms. And when he was term limited, he attempted to change the constitution to give him lifetime presidency like Putin. And the Caribbean Court of Justice blocked it. When he was president, his government and his party allegedly formed death squads, and everybody in the world knows about this by now, that targeted and killed over 1,400 young Black men with impunity. There's never been an investigation. No one has ever been charged. It is a genocide. It's a curse on the Caribbean and the world that we have not had justice. We are now engaging with the Congressional Black Caucus. The United Nations last month in Geneva called for an investigation of these crimes that were committed between 1999 and 2010. And the government has promised an investigation. They've always promised an investigation. David Granger, when he was president, let down the Guyanese people by not having a commission of inquiry into these murders. So Bar Jagdeo is accustomed to saying things and getting away with them, thinking he's all powerful. In that clip you just saw, he committed sedition. He threatened to declare war on the government. He threatened violence. It was very clear. And he was proud to say, I'm very clear. There should be no rules, no laws. We're not going to. You think I could say that? If I were in Guyana, you think I can say that? They'd throw me in jail. And let me say this. I'm the prime example of what they want to do with Black people. I live in America.
Yeah.
I live in America. They send from Guyana an armed police officer who jumped on a flight, a plane, funded by an East Indian man, businessman who supports the government. That's how they got the ticket. Sending a police officer from Guyana on a plane all across an entire continent, came to my home, got in touch with somebody else, some other gunman, came to my home, rushed into my yard, came straight to my door when I was leaving to go to church to give me some paper saying I violate the Guyana cybercrime law. And people who were with me were armed. They were armed. We could have had, if we didn't exercise restraint, we could have had a very deadly situation. And by the way, the government proudly announced that they did it. And the FBI has, so the NYPD has classified it as an act of international terrorism. The FBI seized the documents they left.
I'm hearing something playing. Is that me or you?
You're hearing what?
Something is playing. There's a video playing.
No, that's not me.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Right. I'm not sure if you heard what I said before.
Yes, I heard, but just repeat because there was a competing noise coming through.
Oh, so what I was saying is that the FBI, they left a document. I didn't take any document from them. I just walked past them, left them in my yard. They tampered with my mail when I left because we circled the block and we saw them. They tampered with my mail, searching through my mail. I don't know what they were trying to look for. They left a document on my step. The FBI came and seized it. So there's an investigation launched by the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the NYPD, and the FBI.
Oh.
And subsequently, periodically, the police comes to my home and sits outside my home to make sure that me and my family are safe because of a threat of international terrorism by the government of Guyana.
My God! In fact, I have you know, Rickford, I have a video here, and this is from I think it's from a congressman. Let me just play that because sometimes, you know, I think sometimes when we speak of these things, people are thinking that, you know, it's a made up thing. And I'm just gonna play two videos and you can comment on them. Okay, let me just play one here.
And certainly the folks back home in Guyana, living right now under very difficult circumstances. A government that has consistently not treated everyone consistent with the principles of equal protection under the law. And we're not going to tolerate racism here. We're not going to tolerate racism down in Guyana either.
Wow. Can you give us a little explanation on this particular video and the context of it?
Well, that's the Democratic leader in Congress. That's the most senior Democrat in Congress. Matter of fact, you can consider him to be the third most powerful person in America after the vice president. And so that's Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. He's from New York. He, as I said, is a Democratic leader. He's a very good friend of mine. And he was addressing Guyana Day, Seventh-day Adventist Guyana Day. And he made those comments, and you know the government has targeted him since. As a matter of fact, the same vice president, has threatened to bring him down, and any other Democrat that support me.
Wow,
he's all powerful. He's going to bring the congressman down.
Instead of looking at what is happening in Guyana. If you're just joining us, this is Mr. Rickford Burke, and he's a human rights activist. He's based in New York. He advocates on the behalf of Guyanese, and he is here alleging that the Guyana cybercrime bill targets Black Guyanese because he's saying that quite a number of Black Guyanese talk show hosts, as we would have seen in Kidackie's case, have been charged under the cybercrime bill. And we've just shown you a young East Indian who has threatened Black people to poison them, threatened the police, to kill the police, and nothing has come of it, no charge. He's just been asked to apologize. But there's been no charge. What's the difference between Kidackie and this Guyanese? What's the difference between Kidackie and the vice president, who basically is saying You know what? Let's go out and target the those in the government who are against our party, or who's those in the government that we are against. Let's go and target them. And nothing, it doesn't seem like nothing has happened as a result of what this video is saying that occurred. There's another video actually, and I just find it so interesting. There's another video of this of the vice president, and I just want our viewers to watch this video.
When the ministers or Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. They're going to face a different situation right across the country. We're going to get teams of people to picket them everywhere in their homes and their offices, everywhere.
So he's basically repeating, and these are his words, not doctored, his words.
He is inciting violence against the government and members of the government. He named the president. He named the prime minister. He named ministers of the government. He was never arrested. The fact of the matter is that Guyana cybercrime law does not apply to East Indians. They're using the law to target Black people. And my contention is this: we must do exactly what they do to us. So my view, this is my view, and I want to use very cautious language because I don't want to jeopardize your show. I believe that what is good for us is good for the PPP. That's all I say. I believe when it comes to these matters, an eye for an eye. Look, if this government changes, or when it changes, because they're not going to be in power forever, the opposition and we in the diaspora will have some influence in terms of the people who vote for them, because we would probably have to also campaign and advocate for people to vote this government out of power. Exactly what they did to Black people, we must do to the people in the government. We must hold them accountable if they committed crimes. They must be charged, arrested, and prosecuted. I believe Bart Jagdeo should be prosecuted for conspiracy to commit genocide. We have written to the World Court before about this. We know that he has allegedly been involved. His government has been involved. His Minister of National Security is now dead, but telephone records show that he was the head of the death squad. And I believe that any person who was involved in the slaughter, the extrajudicial killing.
These are all allegations. So we just want to, and you said it. So
right. Any person, well, it's not allegation that the people are dead. They were all shot down, right? So any person who was involved in the slaughter of these 1,400 young Black men should be charged, prosecuted, and if convicted, they must face the death penalty. And I believe included in that should be Bart Jagdeo, because he was responsible for the government. Now in Suriname, you have the former president who was just convicted of murder because he inspired, allegedly caused, not even allegedly because he was convicted of it, his men to shoot and kill 14 people. And he was just convicted, he was just convicted of murder and sentenced to, I think, life imprisonment or a long prison term. So who's Bart Jagdeo? When he was allegedly involved in the forming and alleged financing of these death squads.
Yeah. I'm listening to you, and Brenda Burke is here saying, I agree, Mr. Burke. Stephen Knight says, amen, I agree.
Brenda Casey. Don't say Burke, they might think I said that of Brenda Casey.
Sorry, Brenda Casey. Yeah. And somebody's asking, when is the next general election in Guyana?
The next general election in Guyana is due in 2025, next year.
Yeah, 2025. Now, we are here talking about Guyana, and we have another 10 minutes in this program. And I know you didn't come on here to talk about Barbados, but I want to ask you if you have heard anything about the cybercrime bill of Barbados. Because the reason I'm asking you, Mr. Burke, is because in our parliament, one our past attorney general, former attorney general, he made mention of the cybercrime bill of Guyana. In fact, he was praising it. The former attorney general was praising the cybercrime bill in Guyana and said, but look, it's passed in Guyana and Guyana is okay. You know, have you seen the cybercrime bill of Barbados? And what is it that you, as an attorney, and as a human rights activist, somebody who's seen the effect of the cybercrime bill in Guyana, what do you say to Barbadians, Mr. Burke?
Well, I don't practice law, but I consult in international law. But I've seen aspects of the bill. I've seen the statement by the Barbados Law Association, and the aspects of the bill that I saw are similar to the Guyana cybercrime statute. And I don't believe that those types of laws are constitutional because they infringe on people's right, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And I think that if that bill is passed anywhere in the Caribbean, any bill, any legislation in the Caribbean that infringes on people's rights, just like the Guyana Cybercrime Act does, it should be challenged in court all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice. And even if the Caribbean Court of Justice allows it to be enacted, the people should take to the streets and express themselves and demand the legislation be corrected, because this is your right. Governments around the world are grabbing power, more power for themselves, and infringing on the rights of people. And I believe that we are heading down a slippery slope to autocracy whenever we enact these types of legislation, whether in Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica. I bet you they don't enact that kind of law in Jamaica. I guarantee you. I could close my eyes and say, no Jamaican government. Well, you're Jamaican, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. No Jamaican, well, you're born in Jamaica. No Jamaican government would take God out of their mind and enact a cybercrime legislation with those types of draconian measures. It's not going to work in Jamaica. And it shouldn't work in Guyana, and it shouldn't work in Barbados either. And so I am not attempting to interfere in the affairs of Barbados, but as someone who's Caribbean, who is an advocate for people of the Caribbean, I think that the parts of the legislation that I saw should be taken out. We demanded this when the short-sighted Granger administration was enacted this bill. We pressured them. They removed, it was even more draconian than that. They removed certain provisions where they actually attempted to make what you and I would call libel, which is a civil violation of the civil law where a person can file civil action. The Guyana cybercrime proposed bill that the last government attempted to enact made it a crime. So in other words, if I committed libel, or if I slander you saying, you know, Marcel Weeks, so, and you believe it's slander, you can go file a police report and the police would arrest me. That's the nonsense that these people are doing. And we warned them that you are not going to be in power forever. And now this racist government is using the exact law that we warned them about. CJD campaigned against the enactment of this law, and they enacted it. And now the government is using it against Black people. And I hold David Granger and his administration responsible for what the government is doing to Black people with this bill. And certain people should never be in government again because they're irresponsible. And that should be the sanction. People who pass that Guyana Cybercrime Act should never be elected into government because they're responsible for the destruction of the lives of Black people by passing this bill.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Mr. Burke. The Barbados Bar Association is saying their law reform and legislation committee of the Barbados Bar Association, they gave a report to the Joint Select Committee of Parliament on the Cybercrime Bill of 2024. And they say that the committee concludes that the level of debate and interrogation of this bill to date has been inadequate, given the very serious power which is being vested in the state and in private individuals in matters protected by the Constitution. That is to say, the rights to privacy and expression. And that's what you're talking about. And he said, and the Barbados Bar Association, not Rickford, Burke, and not Marcy Weeks, is saying, unless amended, the bill will inevitably face challenge in the courts. And a part of the bill, Mr. Burke, I don't know if you saw this part where the Mia Motley-led government, this Mia Motley-led government is saying with this cybercrime bill, per section 20 of the cybercrime bill, if your post on Facebook or wherever social media has caused annoyance, you see how frivolous that is?
I'm seeing it. Yeah, I saw it. Inconvenience. I mean, inconvenient. Could you believe that? A government is saying if you inconvenience them, you commit a crime. I think it's ridiculous. It's reckless. It is absolutely reckless and a grab of power for a government to attempt to pass that kind of legislation. And I would urge the government of Barbados to take that nonsense out. I mean, what they're building is Stalinist society where people's rights will be stifled. They're attempting to stifle dissent, and they're cloaking it in terms of a cybercrime bill. But what they're trying to do also is take jurisdiction of the internet. I don't understand how, and I would like to see how the courts rule. You have to take jurisdiction of something that is in your country. The internet is not in Barbados or in Guyana. It is an international interchange of ideas, views, and applications and expressions. How can one government assume jurisdiction over it? You have to assume jurisdiction over citizens within the geographic area of your country. And to me, for instance, this Marcia Weeks show, it is not originating. You might be physically in Barbados, but the platform that you're using is not physically in Barbados. So if you are in Barbados, so if you make a statement that violates Barbados law, maybe you break the law in Barbados. But I don't understand how the courts could assume jurisdiction of where you spoke, because where you spoke is not in Barbados. So it's a very complex issue, and many governments around the world is grappling with this point. Now, in the United States, the United States actually created the internet, right? The United States military. So you can say it originates in the United States. But I have a difficulty with governments trying to govern the internet. Now, if a person and this illustrates the point I'm making. Let's say a Caucasian man in Germany makes a statement that violates the law in Barbados. You mean to tell me that the government of Barbados is going to go to Germany and try to extradite the man and bring him to Barbados and try him? It's not possible. So it's the same thing. It's the same medium. So I don't know how a government can assert jurisdiction over the internet.
Yeah,
and it speaks to their insecurity and their grab for power and to and a desire to control the people.
Yeah. And you know, Mr. Burke, it is for this reason that we are having our march tomorrow. Barbadians, I know that a lot of you are at work and you're going to see this later this evening. But this is so important. You heard from Mr. Burke that, you know, what's happening in Guyana as a result of this law, where lots of talk show hosts, especially those who are Afro-Guyanese, are being those are the ones being affected by this and being charged by this cybercrime bill. And this cybercrime bill, the cybercrime bill of Guyana, is actually the one that was being raised up in our parliament to say, look at Guyana and they're okay. And we're hearing that they're not okay. So we're asking every Bajan to come out tomorrow at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, right there. We're going to be right there at that crossroads, right there. We're going right to Independence Square. Okay? Right to Independence Square tomorrow at 10 o'clock. All right? 10 o'clock tomorrow, and that's what's happening. We have our march. But before we go, you spoke about having they want to reach into another country to get people, and I came in our cybercrime bill, they have that too, that they will be able to get you even if you're in another country. And I don't know how they're going to get that happen, but listen to Letitia James. She is, and you will tell us more about her, but listen to her, what she had to say concerning Rickford Burke when they were planning to, they claimed they're going to get him in the U.S. Listen to her.
I came here to listen, but what I heard is very disturbing. Extremely disturbing. And so my comments, I stand and reaffirm the comments of my brother, Congressmember Jeffries. The United States will not tolerate racism in Guyana or any other country. And I also want the officials to know that if any harm comes to Rickford Burke, let me say that again. If any harm comes to Rickford Burke or anyone on this dais or anyone in this room, there'll have to be answers. We will immediately demand answers, and I can tell you that someone will be held accountable for those actions. And for those who are in Guyana and for those officials who don't know me, my name is Letitia James, and whether you're in the White House or the State House means nothing to me. I fear no one other than my God. And courage is a requirement of this position. Every elected official requires courage and requires having a steel in your backbone. And so I believe in democratic institutions, and I believe that Guyana needs strong democratic institutions, and I will defend that. And I will abhor any discrimination or racism of any people, particularly people from the African diaspora. We have also in this country, we have attempted to root out corruption. We've attempted to address issues of poverty, and we're not perfect in this country. We still know that there are individuals who unfortunately live in poverty, and we call them out. You see, we believe in the First Amendment in our Constitution, the right to free speech, the right to journalism. Journalists should have free and fair, the ability to report whatever they seek without any interruption. We believe that discrimination should be called out. We believe that racism should be called out. We try to call out class struggles as well. And so all that I have to say is the following, is that I, again, will, along with my Democratic Attorney Generals across the country, will be calling upon DOJ, Department of Justice, as well as the Biden administration, and to look into the allegations that have been put forth this evening.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. And I know that our leader of the opposition challenged them on that. How are you going to get, reach your arms from Barbados to grab people from the U.S.? There are people in the U.S. now who can't come home. There are people out there who can't come home because of their fear because of things that they have said. Mr. Burke. So this is very great that this has happened. But let me hear your final comments and what do you say to Barbadians in these 2 minutes that we have on the show?
Well, that was the Attorney General of New York, and everybody would know her because she's the person that just got the $500 million judgment against Donald Trump. And she was very clear that in those positions, it required people with backbone. And, she was attacked. The government hired a lobbyist or somebody to attack her. She was in the middle of an election campaign. They went to her opponents. They held a 7-member march with her opponent, call on Indian people not to vote for her. She won with about 60-something% of the vote. So it shows that they have no impact here. But what she said is important. She spoke about adherence to the Constitution, and she spoke out about people in Guyana who were attacking Guyanese here. Let me also say this, that the FBI has discovered that the government of Guyana sent an official from the Guyana police force who has been, against whom there's evidence that he contacted a hitman to have me killed. And so the FBI is investigating that allegation or that complaint. And also, that individual was also recently stopped at the airport and questioned for 7 hours, and his telephone was seized. So the FBI is taking it seriously. I would encourage Barbadian Americans, if they're threatened in any way by anybody, they should report it to the FBI or report it to the NYPD or the police department in whatever state or town they live. What is absent from the cybercrime legislation that these governments are trying to pass is what is the action to be taken by citizens if the government commit those crimes, embarrasses, incites, inconvenience, and all of that. There's nothing. So the bill is one-sided. Now, I know somebody's going to argue, well, it says the bill applies to everybody, but the government enforces it. Do you think the government is going to enforce the bill against itself? So, for instance, let's say a senior official in Barbados attacks a citizen, right, at a public meeting, and that meeting is broadcast via the internet. That should be a violation of the Cybercrime Act. Is the police going to go and arrest that minister, prime minister, or whomever it is that makes the comment? No. So this is a bill to a power grab by governments to control their citizens and to stifle dissent. The other thing I'll say is that I'm not sure if you saw the news, but yesterday the Chief Justice had to condemn the government, the Vice President of Guyana, and the Attorney General for attacking the judiciary. So this is how far the government of Guyana has come because this thing is powerful. Teachers are on strike. The government, the government stopped paying the teachers. And the teachers took the government to court, and the court said, you can't do that. Wow. Striking for better working conditions is a fundamental right. The vice president cursed out the judge and said the judge is presumptuous. Now, we don't have judges like in Guyana like we had in some parts of the world, where that judge would have called him before him and throw him in jail for contempt. And then you had the Attorney General doing the same thing, attacking the judge. And yesterday, the Chief Justice had to put them to their place. So we are, and the government declared, the ruling party had their Congress 3 weeks ago, and they declared that the political philosophy of the government is democratic centralism. Well, democratic centralism is a system of government where decision-making is centered on one group of people or one man, and everybody else must obey those decisions. That is dictatorship. So the government of Guyana has proudly said that its underpinning philosophy is dictatorship, control by one group of people, and that's what's happening. And so my last set of words is this: people all across the region, all across the world, must stand up for their rights. regardless of what legislation is passed, they will have to kill me. And I know that they're making all sorts of attempts to do it. And I have warned that when they succeed in killing one more person, they must never again be allowed to rule Guyana. Never. So I will say to the people of Barbados, it is your right to stand up and express yourself against any law or policy that you feel infringes on your constitutional rights. The Constitution is supreme, not laws that are passed by Parliament, the Constitution. And I'm happy that the Bar Association of Barbados has said, the Law Association, that they will challenge the bill if passed as is. Same thing with Guyana. I call on Guyanese from all sides of the political spectrum, from all races, to join together and challenge the Guyana Cybercrime Act, whether you support the PPP or not, because we know Guyana's politics. When one government changes, the other side is going to use the same law to get their people. So it is an infringement on all of our rights. So long as we're human beings, these cybercrime acts, these draconian acts that they're passing that infringe on our rights, it's an abuse of power, and we must challenge it wherever it is. We're not saying there must not be cybercrime acts. There's certain things, financial crimes and so on, that you possibly need cybercrime bills for, but not to attack people's ability to express themselves, whether you feel embarrassed, whether you feel inconvenienced, whether you feel threatened. Well, threatened is a different thing, or whether you feel slandered. That's why you have civil jurisdictions in courts, and that's why you have civil laws. So if you feel embarrassed or inconvenient, or you feel somebody slandered you, take it to court, sue them for libel.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rickford Burke. You have been, since I've known you, you have been out there at the pinnacle of this, at the point of this. And every time it comes up, my mind goes back to you. And our viewers have been saying, where is Rickford Burke? We want to hear him. Sorry you could not be on on an evening. And we're going to probably have to try to work that out. But I know that they're going to get this around, and lots more people are going to see it. Everybody's going to share this. So thank you so much for coming on. And I want to say to you, stay safe.
Thank you.
Safe, and continue to advocate on behalf of African Guyanese. I said Afro-Guyanese earlier, and I was wrong in saying that. Afro is a hairstyle. With the African Guyanese, continue to advocate on their behalf. And to Barbadians who are watching this, I say levy march this Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. Redmond Drive to Independence Square. This is against sections of the cybercrime bill. God bless you. Thank you all so much for joining with us this afternoon. Everybody have
Thanks for having me. Happy weekend.
Yes. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.